I would like to welcome our two next researchers. We have NCC Group researchers, Alex Plaskett and Robert Herrera. Welcome to both of you. Can you tell us a little bit about you took on Sonos. You came up, which is an audio system, correct? A pretty high level, fancy audio system.
That's correct, yeah.
And you have a proof of exploit of an over-the-kernel error exploit against Sonos, correct? Sonos.
Yes.
What does that mean? Why did you decide to take on Sonos? Why do they fall in your crosshairs? And what does it mean?
Yeah, I guess that's a sort of multi-tiered answer in the sense that Alex, or EDG, was initially looking at Sonos and doing their own research for Pwn2Own. And essentially they had already discovered vulnerabilities of their own, and basically coupled those vulnerabilities with already existing research, and that basically led them enabled them to really just dump the file system on the Sonos One. So at that point I stepped in as a subject matter expert to take a look at the actual Wi-Fi implementation, and at that point within my investigation, that's essentially when we found the memory corruption vulnerability within their Wi-Fi stack implementation.
So talk to me about what that is. What does that vulnerability mean, and what does that enable an attacker to do?
Yeah. So I think in short, what ends up happening with the Sonos when it connects to a wireless network is that it first associates or basically connects to a router. When it connects to a router, there's basically a protocol or a process, so to speak, that ends up happening right before you you enable yourself to start sending wireless traffic.
Okay.
Within that process, basically, or handshake, so to speak, one of those packets that gets exchanged in that handshake process is not properly validated. That's essentially where we step in as far as the exploitation goes. So we leverage that improper validation of that wireless packet, and that's basically where we start going from there as far as exploitation is concerned.
Yeah. So, and then once we've exploited the device itself as well, we wanted to demonstrate like a good proof of concept a way to do that. So we deploy a method of capturing all the audio data, all the microphone input in the room, like in the vicinity of the Sonos device, and being able to kind of exfiltrate that data and play it back at a later date, and be able to play back all the recorded conversations from the room. So yeah.
Does Sonos capture and keep historical recordings of conversations, or is that a real-time sort of fly-on-the-wall bug?
So this is purely from, you would need to exploit the Sonos device first to start the capture, and then once you've started the capture, you've only got the time from when you're starting the capture to when you end the capture, and the data within that period. As far as I know, there's no historical. Yeah.
Does this sort of handshake, is this issue prevalent in other devices, or is this a Sonos-specific issue?
So, I mean, as far as Sonos itself is concerned, we know that it affected multiple models of their products, which at this point have already been patched. As far as the actual greater clientele that use this chipset, we are not too sure, to be honest with you.
How will we find out? Are we going to find out?
So we know the vulnerability itself, it was in one of MediaTek's device drivers. So if it could potentially affect other phones other devices which are based on the same chipset.
Yeah.
And MediaTek have reported that to their partners. So they should be fixes out there for those devices, in theory. Yeah.
Yeah, and so, what is it, kind of backing out from this specific incident, what can you say about this IoT space and the maturity of its cybersecurity, and not just home security, but the industrial devices, and what is your estimation of the security maturity of that space right now?
Yeah, so I think but there's a lot of difference within the security postures of IoT devices. You have some devices which were, I would say, a low security maturity, and they haven't implemented very many like security controls and mitigations and so on. But then on the other side of the spectrum, you've got the like vendors which have done a lot of security assurance. They've put a lot of secure design into their product. So I don't really think you can draw like a wide picture. It really depends on the specific vendor and that implementation as well. So, yeah.
Do we know what other products are potentially using these vulnerable chipsets? Are we aware of them?
No, yeah, to my knowledge, the only thing that was relayed to us was that MediaTek themselves relayed and subsequently issued a patch for the companies that are, or their partners, I should say, that are using their software. That's as far as we know, and that's as far as we were told, is their partners were alerted. Yeah.
And so you've been working closely with Sonos, and they're issuing patches, and they're all over this. Does Sonos stand out in this space as someone who is more proactive than others on this sort of security front? Is this sort of an anomalous situation that they would bring you in?
So I think that from the security posture of Sonos devices is of a reasonable it was of a good standard. It's been evolving over time. They've had vulnerabilities in the past. But they have a lot of the kind of common. They have like disk encryption. They have secure boot chains and things like that. And a lot of embedded devices which we look at just don't have those security controls to start off with. So those controls are there. Every vendor has vulnerabilities, and basically it's about how you respond to those vulnerabilities, how you patch those vulnerabilities. Sonos fixed these vulnerabilities within 2 months as well.
And was that an automatic update that was pushed out?
It was an automatic update which was pushed out to users of the device. It's a good patching process, really, I would say. Yeah.
What is sort of the takeaway that you want the broader cybersecurity industry to have from your research? I mean, this is a pretty specific case and a specific product, but it seems to me that you can extrapolate this out to other products and other researchers in this space. So what do you want the cybersecurity community to take away?
So I think, one of the main things from our presentation is we want to demonstrate doing remote kernel exploitation is quite difficult. It is quite technical. It requires a lot of effort, but it is also achievable. So if an attacker goes to that kind of extent, they could compromise the devices. And I think people have been assuming that these devices may be secure, so being able to kind of quantify the amount of effort and what an attacker would need to do to actually to achieve the compromise is quite an important understanding. So yeah.
Can you walk through, for our audience who might not be familiar, exactly what these kernel attacks look like and why they're so technically challenging?
Yeah. I think typically the sort of main high-level takeaways as to why, the buzzword like kernel RCE differs from just generic RCE is really just that there are different levels of separation in devices in terms of privilege. The kernel is typically a little bit more privileged than your average user. So when let's say a piece of software is running at this specific kernel privilege, and you're able to then leverage this code and execute code in that context, it then enables an attacker to essentially execute their own commands with a pretty high level of privilege.
And giving them ultimate control over.
Correct, yeah.
Okay. Where can our audience catch your research and learn more about the work that you're doing?
So our research will obviously be published on Black Hat's website. So the slides and white paper will be released on there. We're also going to release a video recording as well of the attack and kind of an end-to-end video of the exploitation, walking through the different steps as well. So and that should be available from NCC's website as well. So, yeah.
Okay, have you already given your briefing?
No, it's tomorrow.
Tomorrow at 11:20.
At what time?
Oh, yeah.
11:20.
11:20.
Yeah.
All right, so everybody remember to tune in. We want to thank again Alex Plaskett and Robert Herrera, both from NCC Group. We very much appreciate your time and your expertise today.
Thank you so much for the
Thank
time.
Thank you.